Hello, and welcome once again to R&R Reviews Unscripted. Today, me and my brother are just going to sit back and talk with you about one of our reviews on a recent movie we just watched. And this one is going to be on scary stories to tell in the dark.
Ooh,
Because we have nothing better to do with our lives.
nothing at all. Alert! If you haven't seen Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, and you're not familiar with this film at all, you don't want to hear what we're going to have to say, because we are going to give some major spoilers. We're going to talk about the plot and everything inside the story, even though we really don't want to. So if you haven't seen this, turn it off now. Like right now. Right now, turn it off, yes.
Did you turn it off yet? You're not still listening, are you?
'Cause we're about to spoil it for you.
Han Solo dies at the end.
So, as you can see on our Facebook page, R&R Reviews, we gave Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark an overall rating of 4.9 out of 10 points, okay? And remember that our 4 is considered average for us. So this is just slightly over average, but not too much to talk about here. Our watch meter states, for those that find this nostalgic and are horror fanatics, it's a must-see, but wait for it to hit the streaming or rental. And that'll kind of tell you what our overall review means.
I think that this has a pretty decent rating for horror movie because horror movies usually aren't that fantastic. I definitely think that it is a good movie. It is different. It is interesting to see. And I would say go see this in theaters for sure if this was the middle of October, but it's not.
Yes, so it is decent. I mean, I'll give it to him. It's an original idea. You know, obviously it's a book that we're all pretty familiar with. It is an original idea in that aspect, and it does do something different than your regular traditional horror stories. But I feel as if the adaptation to film really missed the mark here.
Right. I think where this really falls short is in the plot. They tried to go ahead and, string up some random orangutan plot and make everything connected. And it just doesn't work
Like
well.
an orangutan, like a monkey?
No, like orangutan or orangutan. But in a short story format, I think this film would have worked very successfully. I think it would have added way more to the horror because it just would have been random stories, told, and random creepy things happening with no explanation or backstory to them.
Exactly. I 100% agree with you. I think of the Ballad of Buster Scruggs that came out on Netflix recently, which was a series of Western stories by the Coen brothers that had no ties to each other. They didn't resolve anything. It was just a story after a story after a story. And I loved it. And I think that this would have been so much more eerie if we would have just been going into the book, as the book was set up as short stories with no real linear plot to it. That we would have seen and loved this so much more, but they tried to make it linear, add these characters and this storyline to it. And I feel that it fell too much into the cliche.
I even think that if they wanted to somewhat connect it maybe in like a Pulp Fiction style where you see a few intertwining, parts of a story or characters even, sure, that's fine. Maybe throw in a line here or there about how so-and-so is missing from school and blah, blah, blah. But trying to connect it all together just makes it really, really, really corny. I mean, I walked out of the theater with a toothpick picking corn out of my teeth.
And that's not just because everything takes place in the country. That was dumb. Take that out whenever you do it. So, check it out. I mean, this is definitely nothing epic. It had some jump scares. I don't feel that it totally relied on the jump scares, but it definitely... You know what? I take that back. I think that it relied way too heavily on the jump scare feel. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. It tried to do the whole jump scare feel and just traditional story. We had, just like in some other horror films, we had the forbidden house that you're not supposed to go to. You had the girl that was historically in history, killing people, and then something was wrong with her family trying to keep a big secret, and you have this group of teenagers on Halloween nonetheless going out and being involved in this, and it's just like, man, I feel like I've seen this in every single horror movie ever made.
And the best part about that is that was the part that didn't even need to be in the movie.
Yes.
So a lot of the downfalls come in here where they tried to string up this wrongy-tingy-tungy plot.
There was no great performances by any of the actors or actresses. Obviously a lot of horror films will pull no-name actors in and start with someone fresh and new faces. I feel like there wasn't anybody to pull out. There was not a big resolve. Another thing that I hated was how they they thought it was going to be so successful. They set it up for a sequel in the end, like very openly set it up for a sequel, and it just annoyed me. It seemed corny in the way that it ended.
Right. Yep, they got way too far ahead of themselves, and that's where a lot of these downfalls come. I mean, we've seen it with almost the entire DC extended universe. They think that this is going to work and they're going to be able to build something out of it, and instead of just trying to make one good movie, they get way too far ahead of themselves. And
the thing was, they attached Guillermo del Toro's name to this, and so I assumed this is probably going to be good. You know, I'm learning that this guy's attaching his name to a lot of stuff that I just don't understand. I'm looking at the numbers now. It looks like the budget was $25 million. So far, they've brought in $50,489 domestically. That's not including worldwide. Worldwide added, it's $72 million. So they've definitely made a profit, but this is by no means as big as what I think it could have been had they attached this film in the right way.
especially with a movie that carries so much nostalgia from I believe it was 3 different books that were out when we were kids. I will say this movie will make you want to go read the books. So if there's a positive spin to it, it's that.
Yeah, it was just so simple. And these books were controversial. The stories in these books, parents and people were upset about them being in libraries for kids to read because they were dark. The pictures and the illustrations that were drawn were dark, and they were known for that. And then I feel like the movie just gave us this generic idea of what it would be instead of really tapping into what could have been.
I do got to give credit to the monsters, though. I think all of them in the film looked really weird, really bizarre, and they were definitely the best done part of the film.
I agree. That definitely, the Jangly Man, and that one, although I had these kids sitting in front of me in the theater and I assume they'd never seen it. And like that scene when they're in the insane asylum and there's that big, whatever that thing is, I have no idea. They were just laughing at it, man. They just kept laughing at it. And I was like, I get it's supposed to be scary. It definitely looks weird, but it kind of cracked me up because they just kept laughing at it because the way it looked.
Yeah, it definitely looks weird and bizarre, and I think that's the important part. My favorite is gotta be Harold the Scarecrow.
Yes.
He was awesome, and whenever he, pitchforks the kid and like all the straw starts coming out,
yes.
like that whole sequence was
that
awesome.
was probably the best of the scary stories, I think.
And
the
toe one is just so weird that it will stick in your memory forever.
They're definitely weird stories, and I think that was the intent and purpose. I just think that, I don't know, man, they just fell short here.
For sure. All right, guys. Well, that is all the time we got today for this film. We're going to go ahead and roll it up. Maybe do give it a chance once it comes out. Watch it in a dark room alone or with one other person. Try and scare yourself with this hingy-tingy-tungy-tingy plot. We will see you guys next time. Be sure to like us on our Facebook page. Leave us a comment. Let us know what your take was on this film. Or hit us up on our email. That's rogercinemahood@gmail.com. We will see you guys next time.
And don't forget, it's always a beautiful day in the cinema hood.